Okay. Hi, everybody. Wish you all Happy New Year. And today, me and Manmeet are again together to start a new chapter for Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter number 2. And this chapter is also the what is called as the Sar of Gita, or the essence. So basically, this chapter has the very condensed uh, essence of all the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So if anybody doesn't want to go through the entire Gita, which of course we intend to, still if they can get this particular chapter, can reflect on this chapter and the verses in this chapter, I think that should be sufficient. So, Manmeet, I think we should take it very slowly so that we can grasp and chew as we go along, reading through this one. And just to connect it with the first chapter sort of set uh, the scene for Bhagavad Gita, where Arjun was in much of distress and dilemma, thinking and contemplating about the war and what its consequences would be, and he did not want to fight, and he couldn't find that strength from within him that he can fight his elders and the members of the family for some kingdom or any personal gain as he felt. So in the beginning of this chapter, again, Sanjay begins the conversation where he says, Tam tatha kripyavishtam ashrupurn kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvach madhusudana. So Sanjay is describing after when Arjun said that I don't find it in me to even pick up my weapons and fight. So Sri Krishna now starts to speak to Arjun, who he seems to be much distressed with compassion, and he has tears flowing down his eyes, and he's full of anguish. Shri Bhagwanam Uvach. Shri Bhagwan means Lord Krishna. He speaks. Kutahstva kashmalam idam vishame samupasthitam anaryajustam swargayam kirtikaram arjunam. Krishna says, Hey Arjun, तुम्हारे मन में ये कलमश आया कैसे? ये उस मनुष्य के लिए तनिक भी अनुकूल नहीं है जो जीवन के मूल्य को जानता हो, इससे उच्च लोक की नहीं अपितु अपयश की प्राप्ति होती है. So Krishna begins to address Arjun by saying, like, where is this anguish and grief coming from within you? It doesn't suit you, or you are not the kind of person who should think like that, because the way you're thinking, it will only bring you bad name. What would you call it? Apyash is like positivity, negativity. And so he very lightly begins to speak to Arjun, and he just says, where is this all coming from? So it's like he is, although he is also aware he is God, of course he knows what is his mindset, but he is speaking in a way where he wants Arjun to start asking the right questions to himself. Then in the next verse he says, Klavyam ma smagamaha parth nay tattva upapadyate kshudram hriday daurbalyam tyaktavottisht param tapaha. He says, हे प्रथापुत्र, इस हीन नपुंसकता को प्राप्त मत हो, ये तुम्हें शोभा नहीं देती. हे शत्रुओं के दमन करता, हृदय की क्षुद्र दुर्बलता को त्याग कर युद्ध के लिए खड़े हो जाओ. So he is basically trying to bring Arjun's attention to the state of his own mind, state of his own chitta, where he's saying that, so he's not, I think what he's doing is instead of whatever arguments Arjun sort of presented, he is considering them to be, a slight weakness of the mind, which he think doesn't suit a warrior like Arjun. That's why he used the word like Shatruon ke daman karta, so that he becomes aware of who he really is. Like he is a Kshatriya, he is a warrior. So his dharma is actually to fight and to fight with the enemies. So anything coming in that way is basically like a weakness of the mind, weakness of the heart. Arjun Uvach. Now, listening to this, Arjun then says, Katham Bhishma aham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana. Ishubhi pratiyotsami pujar ha varisudana. He says, हे शत्रुहंता हे मधुसूदन, मैं युद्ध भूमि में किस तरह भीष्म तथा द्रोण जैसे पूजनीय व्यक्तियों पर उलट बाण चलाऊंगा. Now, when Krishna asks him that he's just being weak in his mind and heart, he really speaks out what is bothering him. And he specifically calls out for Bhishma and Drona. Both are his elders, and not just his elders, they are the elders of the clan, they are the elders of the entire family. And he's like, they are very respectful people for me. How am I going to go into fight with them? Gurun hatva hi mahanubhavan, shreyo bhoktum bhaksham mahip loke, hatvarth kamanstu guru nihev, bhunjiya bhogaru dhir pragdigdan. ऐसे महापुरुषों को जो मेरे गुरु हैं, उन्हें मारकर जीने की अपेक्षा इस संसार में भीख मांगकर खाना अच्छा है. भले ही वे सांसारिक लाभ के इच्छुक हों, किंतु हैं तो गुरुजन ही. यदि उनका वध होता है तो हमारे द्वारा भोग्य प्रत्येक वस्तु उनके रक्त से सनी होगी. न चैतद्विद्य कतरन्नो गरीयो यद्वा जयेम यदि वा नो जयेयु यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषाम स्ते अवस्थिता प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्र. हम यह भी नहीं जानते कि हमारे लिए क्या श्रेष्ठ है, उनको जीतना या उनके द्वारा जीते जाना. यदि हम धृतराष्ट्र के पुत्रों का वध कर देते हैं तो हमें जीवित रहने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. फिर भी वे युद्ध भूमि में हमारे समक्ष खड़े हैं. कार्पण्य दोषो अपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वाम धर्म सम्मूढ़ चेता यत् श्रेयः सयान निश्चितम ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेहम शाधि माम त्वाम प्रपन्नम. अब मैं अपनी कृपण दुर्बलता के कारण अपना कर्तव्य भूल गया हूँ और सारा धैर्य खो चुका हूँ. ऐसी अवस्था में मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ कि जो मेरे लिए श्रेयस्कर हो उसे निश्चित रूप से बताएं. अब मैं आपका शिष्य हूँ और आपका शरणागत हूँ, कृपया मुझे उपदेश दें. This part is so beautifully said, because when Krishna very lightly sort of rebukes or chides Arjun, he speaks about what is really bothering him, what is in the depth of his anguish. And he is speaking about Bhishma, who is the elder, and then Drona, who is his guru, who has been his teacher, who taught him the art to fight and as well. And he feels like that Guru Hatya or even killing the Guru would be the path. And that's all he's thinking about. And then he's thinking about that even if it's the right thing. And he agrees in this last when he says that dharma sammood cheta, that means I'm sort of forgetting what is really my dharma because of all of these reasons. And he sort of surrenders to Krishna. He's not arguing with him, but he's receiving his chiding as well, and he is just reflecting and going deeper into what is bothering him and what does he really want. So he just surrenders himself to Krishna as his disciple, and he says that, please tell me what is the right thing to do. And after this, when he sort of surrendered himself, Krishna would really sort of then give him all this wisdom of Gita. He still goes on, Nahi prapashyami mam apnudyad yat shokam uchoshan indriyanam avapyam bhuma avsam mridham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. मुझे ऐसा कोई साधन नहीं दिखता जो मेरी इंद्रियों को सुखाने वाले शोक को दूर कर सके। स्वर्ग पर देवताओं के आधिपत्य की तरह इस धन धान्य संपन्न सारी पृथ्वी पर निष्कंटक राज्य प्राप्त करके भी मैं इस शोक को दूर नहीं कर सकूंगा। So he's saying that my limited knowledge, my limited senses do not bring to me any solution which can help me let go of this anguish that I'm feeling right now. And he used a specific word, indriyon ko sukhane. Indris means all these senses. So this anguish and this grief is so great that all of his senses are getting hijacked by it. All of his senses are sort of dried out. And he can't see a way out of this situation. And then he surrenders himself to Krishna. Sanjay Uvach, now Sanjay speaks. Evam uktava hrishikesham gudakeshah paramtapah na yotyasya iti govindam uktava tushnim babhuvaha. ये कहने के बाद शत्रुओं का दमन करने वाला अर्जुन कृष्ण से बोला, हे गोविंद, मैं युद्ध नहीं करूंगा, और चुप हो गया. So he went absolutely silent because despite Krishna highlighting it to him that he is being weak in his head and his heart, he couldn't really understand, like, how can he bring himself to fight? So he went silent and he said, I cannot fight. Tam uvach hrishikeshah prasanya bharata senoryurbhayo madhye vishidantam idam vachah. Then Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, उस समय दोनों सेनाओं के मध्य शोक मग्न अर्जुन से कृष्ण ने मानो हंसते हुए ये शब्द कहे. Now when he said, I cannot fight and I surrender to you and you advise me what to do, Sanjay explains that how Krishna is still delighted in that moment, and very delightfully, very lightly, he starts to speak to Arjun. That means Krishna is able to see something which Arjun definitely is not able to see. So for him, Arjun's mindset and his state of being in that moment is a very childlike state. And so that's why he speaks to him very lovingly, very kindly, and in a very, very light-hearted manner. It doesn't feel like that he's very serious and he's going to give him the wisdom of the lifetime. But he is just speaking to him like a friend in a very delightful manner. Shri Bhagwan Uvach. Now, Shri Krishna starts to speak. अशोच्यान अवशोचस्त्वं प्रज्ञावादांश्च भाषसे गतासून अगतासून च न अनुशोचन्ति पंडिता. कृष्ण says, तुम पांडित्यपूर्ण वचन कहते हुए उनके लिए शोक कर रहे हो जो शोक करने के योग्य नहीं है. जो विद्वान होते हैं वे ना तो जीवित के लिए और ना ही मृत के लिए शोक करते हैं. So he says that Arjun, you speak like a very wise person, but you are grieving for somebody who do not need to be grieved. And he says the really wise person would know that nothing deserves to be grieved, neither those who are alive nor those who are dead. So he's trying to bring his attention to what really is he grieving about. न त्वेवाहं जातु न असम न त्वं नेमे जनाधिपः न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम. ऐसा कभी नहीं हुआ कि मैं न रहा हूं या तुम न रहे हो, अथवा ये समस्त राजा ना रहे हों, और ना ऐसा है कि भविष्य में हम लोग नहीं होंगे. देहिनो अस्मिन् अन्यथा देहे कौमारम यौवनम जरा तथा देहांतर प्राप्तिर धीरस्त्रः न मुह्यति. जिस प्रकार शरीरधारी आत्मा इस शरीर में बाल्यावस्था से तरुणावस्था में और फिर वृद्धावस्था में निरंतर अग्रसर होता रहता है, उसी प्रकार मृत्यु होने पर आत्मा दूसरे शरीर में चला जाता है. धीर व्यक्ति ऐसे परिवर्तन से मोह को प्राप्त नहीं होते. So in these two shlokas, Krishna directly gives him the wisdom or the truth about our being. He says, what are you really grieving about? There was never a time when you, me, and all of these people were not existing. And there will be no future where all of us will not be existing ever. So what really are you grieving for? Just like our body transforms from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, after death, the Atma leaves one body and goes to another. So, what is the attachment that you are causing with one particular body? Matra sparshastu kaunteya शीतोष्ण सुख दुखा आगम आपायिनो नित्यांस्तावि तिक्षस्व भारतः. हे कुंती पुत्र, सुख तथा दुख का क्षणिक उदय तथा कालकर्म में उनका अंतर्ध्यान होना सर्दी तथा गर्मी की ऋतुओं के आने जाने के समान है. हे भरतवंशी, वे इंद्रिय बोध से उत्पन्न होते हैं और मनुष्य को चाहिए कि अविचल भाव से उनको सहन करना सीखे. My God, this one verse is so full of symbolism and knowledge. Here he explains like what really happens inside us. Why do we get associated or get attached to a particular body shape or form? He says that life is just like weather, like winter and summer and the other seasons, they come and go. So with time, and he is indicating the significance of the cyclical nature of nature itself, and same is about the human life, that one cycle comes after another, and it is just, he uses the word indriya bodh, that means because of the awareness of our senses, we get attached to a particular form or a particular cycle, and we want it to persist for longer. But it is cyclical. Just like after summer, the winter comes, and after winter, again, the summer comes. Similarly, the body moves from the Atma moves from one body to another. Life and death have this cyclical nature to it. One who's born will die, and if somebody's died, they will born again. So he's saying कि अविचल भाव से सहन करना सीखो, which means just live through it without getting perturbed, without getting attached to one particular phase of the cycle. And this is also exactly what is said in Taoism as well. Taoism is the Chinese philosophy which originated in China. And if you'll see, there also the essence of Taoism is also this cyclical nature of this universe. Like everything happens in cycles, in different phases, and that one should just go through these changes without getting attached or without getting really perturbed or disturbed because of these changes, because change is the essence of life. Change is the essence of nature. Everything goes on transforming from one way to another. So that is what is getting signified in this particular verse. And also to notice that how it is because of our sensory awareness and sensory attachments to these things that we get associated. Yes, Meet, it is tough to apply, but I think there are ways to learn how to apply this in our lives. And I think one way is also to keep reminding ourselves that, okay, this is the truth, this is the true nature. And this reminder, I think, is first level of awareness, which we require to eventually move towards being detached and not associated with all of these changes. Let's see what Krishna says more about how to make it easy. Yam hi na vathantete purusham purusharpha sam dukha sukham dhiram so amritvay kalpate. हे अर्जुन, जो पुरुष सुख तथा दुख में विचलित नहीं होता और इन दोनों में समभाव रहता है, वह निश्चित रूप से मुक्ति के योग्य है. न सतो विद्यते भावो न भावो विद्यते सतः उभयोर अपि दृष्टो अंतःस्त्वं योस्तव दर्शिनि. तत्वदर्शियों ने यह निष्कर्ष निकाला है कि असत का तो कोई चिरस्थायित्व नहीं है, किंतु सत अपरिवर्तित रहता है. उन्होंने इन दोनों की प्रकृति के अध्ययन द्वारा यह निष्कर्ष निकाला है. Now this is very significant because here in this verse Krishna distinguishes between what is sat, truth, and asat, like which is not truth, which is just an illusion. So truth is what doesn't changes ever, and that is the Atma or the Atman. And everything else, which is like this physical body, this physical existence, is asat, which means this is not true. And this is what all of these wise sages and philosophers and the wise people have sort of reached as a conclusion, like what is truth and what is untruth. And somewhere it also connects with another mantra which I remember, like I think it's Gayatri mantra. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityur ma amritam gamaya. So there, those words of asato ma sadgamaya. So asat means this physical existence, and sad means atman, which means we move closer and closer to our true nature, which is atma, and move away from the physical existence. अविनाशी तु तद्विधि येन सर्वम इदं ततं विनाशम व्ययस् सॉरी, विनाशम अव्यवस्य अस्य न कश्चित कर्तुम अर्हति। जो सारे शरीर में व्याप्त है उसे ही तुम अविनाशी समझो, उस अव्यय आत्मा को नष्ट करने में कोई भी समर्थ नहीं है। Now, by sharing the truth of what is the truth of our existence and what is untrue, he is now telling Arjun to start looking at all of these people as their Atman, to start realizing the truth of their nature, which is all of those are the Atmans. And since the truth of their existence is that they are all Atmas, they cannot be perished by anything or anybody. So if Arjun fights with them and if anybody gets killed, what is getting killed is just the what is untrue, that is the physical existence, and not really the Atman. Antavant ime deha nityasyokta sharirina anashino prameyasya tasmad yuddhasva bharata। अविनाशी, अप्रमेय तथा शाश्वत जीव के भौतिक शरीर का अंत अवश्यम भावी है, अतः हे भरतवंशी युद्ध करो। So he says that this physical body, this physical existence for which you are grieving is in any way is going to perish, if not in the war, otherwise. That is for sure, that is a truth, it is going to happen, so fight। य एनं वेति हन्तारं यश्च एनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो न अयं हन्ति न हन्यते। जो इस जीवात्मा को मारने वाला समझता है तथा जो इसे मरा हुआ समझता है वह दोनों ही अज्ञानी हैं, क्योंकि आत्मा न तो मारता है और ना ही मारा जाता है। न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन न अयं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतो अयं पुराणो न हन्यमते हन्यमाने शरीरे। आत्मा के लिए किसी भी काल में न तो जन्म है न मृत्यु, वह न तो कभी जन्मा है न जन्म लेता है और न जन्म लेगा। वह अजन्मा, नित्य, शाश्वत तथा पुरातन है। शरीर के मारे जाने पर वह नहीं मारा जाता। So in these two verses, Krishna explains more and more about the truth of Atma and tries to bring Arjun's attention away from considering all the other people only as their physical existence. And he says that these physical bodies are in any way going to perish. But what is not going to perish is this Atma, or which is the truth of somebody's existence. And anybody who considers that, they are killing somebody, they are killing Atma, or somebody is getting killed by somebody, no, that's all a lie. It's untrue, because nobody can kill you or you cannot kill anybody. And people who do not know this truth are agyani or are ignorant, those who do not know the truth of our existence. Because Atma is, and he used these words like ajanma, which means which cannot be born, something which is omnipresent, ever existent, cannot be born. If it's not born, it cannot die. It's forever present, is shashwat, puratan. And all of these words are used to explain the truth of Atman. Ved avinashinam nityam ya enamajam vyam katham sa purushah partham kam घात्यति हंति कम। हे पार्थ, जो व्यक्ति यह जानता है कि आत्मा अविनाशी, अजन्मा, शाश्वत तथा अव्यय है, वह भला किसी को कैसे मार सकता है या मरवा सकता है? So now he comes to that point of grief that Arjun was holding inside him, thinking that, oh, how can I kill my elders? How can I fight and kill my guru? And he says, somebody who knows the truth of our existence, which is Atma, and who also knows that this Atma cannot be killed, cannot be destroyed, it's indestructible, it's omnipresent, it's ever existent. How could that person even think that he or she is able to kill or hurt anybody or can be hurt by somebody else? Yeah, I would love that. Kabir is also one really enlightened being. Please do read, Manmeet.
So, I've very recently started Kabir. So, like Gita, I was looking for someone who can make me hop on to Kabir, but I haven't found so far. So, I'm doing self-study.
Mm.
So, I'm going to read this one bhajan by Kabir, and I'm glad Jessica has joined just at the right moment. So, it says, मन फूला फूला फिरे जगत में कैसा नाता रे,
Mm.
माता कहे ये पुत्र हमारा, बहन कहे वीर हमारा, वीर मेरा, भाई कहे ये भुजा हमारी, नारी कहे नर मेरा, पेट पकड़ के माता रोवे, बाह पकड़ के भाई, लपट झपट के तिरिया रोवे, हंस अकेला जाए,
Mm.
जब तक जीवे माता रोवे, फेर करे जगवासा, चार गजी चादर मंगवाई, चढ़ा काठ की घोड़ी, चारों कोने आग लगाई, फूंक दियो जस होरी, हाड़ जरे जस लाकड़ी, केस जरे जस खासा, सोना ऐसी काया जर गई, कोई न आया पासा, घर की तिरिया ढूंढन लागी, ढूंढ फिरी चौदेशा, कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधु, छोड़ो जग की आशा.
Mm. Wow, so beautiful. And I love the way Kabir has, transferred this truth and this wisdom of Gita into a very, very local dialect for anybody and everybody who didn't have access to the kinds of Vedas or Upanishads or these kind of literature. He made this wisdom and this knowledge so accessible to a common person in their own language using such beautiful expressions. When he says like शरीर जले जैसे लाकड़ी, केस जले जैसे
Yeah,
खासा.
same, Komal, it hit me so hard
Yeah,
that लकड़ी की तरह हम जल जाएंगे और
yeah,
घास की तरह हमारे बाल जल
bal.
जाएंगे, और क्या हम भाई बहन और ये नाते. Sorry, I'm moving on to Hindi,
No,
but
no.
it hit me so hard, and I have been resisting reading Kabir on my own, thinking I won't be able to understand the bridge bhasha. But I realized I understood at least three-fourth of it, except for one, two words here and there, which I spoke to someone, please help me understand. And when you were talking about Krishna, talking about who are you grieving for,
Yeah.
it hit me so hard. And we give up on the entire world, like Arjuna standing in the war, taking a stand for truth. For him, suddenly his smaller inner circle becomes much more important than that truth. And we do
Exactly.
the same for
Yep.
those four handful people in our life. We give up on the entire world, whereas all of us are one.
Yes. And I think we do it in more ways than we realize that this is what we are doing. every time, each time when we surrender our own inner truth and authenticity, which is sort of showing up from within us, because all of us have this light within us, all of us has this awareness of what's the right thing to do and what's not the right thing to do. We sort of surrender that rightfulness and that inner truth, sometimes to for the sake of our family, our parents, our siblings, our friends, and we do it over and over and over and over and again. Sort of becomes very habitual, which feels like with every decision, every step of the way, we are sort of moving away from this truth. Like, okay, what exactly is it that we are moving towards? What exactly are we attached towards?
And I guess our anguish also comes from there because we move away from the truth. What
From
we
the
think
truth. Yeah,
is our family, our source of love and support. But by moving away from the truth, we are only creating anguish. And that's why we are roaming around so unhappy.
exactly. So true. And thank you so much for sharing. It was such a beautiful prose from Kabir. And please keep bringing in Kabir wherever you find it's appropriate. It's whatever is showing up for you. Let's move on to the next verse and see what more is there. वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि नयानि संवाति नयानि देहि. This is one verse which I've sort of remembered orally because I would have said it so many times. It simply means जिस प्रकार मनुष्य पुराने वस्त्रों को त्याग कर नए वस्त्र धारण करता है, उसी प्रकार आत्मा पुराने तथा व्यर्थ के शरीरों को त्याग कर नवीन भौतिक शरीर धारण करता है. Such a simple but a powerful simile, it's and metaphor, that just like we change our clothes, the Atma changes the bodies. What's the big deal? Unless it is a big deal for all of us. नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न च एनं क्लेद्यन्त्यापो न शोष्यति मारुतः. He further explains the nature of Atma. He says that ना तो इसे कोई शस्त्र खंडित कर सकता है, ना अग्नि इसे जला सकती है, ना जल इसको भिगो सकता है और ना ही वायु इसे सुखा सकती है. Yes, exactly. Sufism and a lot of poetry also sort of resonates with these knowledge. Achedyo yam dahyo yam kledyo shoshya evacha nityah sarvagatah sthanor chalo ayam sanatanam. यह आत्मा अखंडित तथा अघुलनशील है. इसे न तो जलाया जा सकता है न ही सुखाया जा सकता है. यह शाश्वत, सर्वव्यापी, अविकारी, स्थिर तथा सदैव एक सा रहने वाला है. That means this Atma or this inner truth stays the same. So all that vikar and changes, whatever we sort of come across, all that happens only in the physical body. None of this happens in Atma because Atma is the same. So which means that the Atma in a child and an old person is the same. There is no difference. Avyaktayo yam chintayo yam avikaryo yamuchate तस्माद एवं विदित्वैनम न अनुशोचितुम अर्हसि. यह आत्मा अव्यक्त, अकल्पनीय तथा अपरिवर्तनीय कहा जाता है. यह जानकर तुम्हें शरीर के लिए शोक नहीं करना चाहिए. He says this Atma is avyakt. You cannot explain it in words or forms. Akalpaniya, you can't even imagine about it. You just know it. Or aparivartaniya hai. It doesn't changes. And knowing all of this about its truth, you shouldn't grieve about the body. You shouldn't grieve for the body. It's like I took off my clothes today and I grieve about those clothes. Like, oh my God, I've taken off these clothes. So the point is, who is actually grieving? And this point also brings me to where it says that Atma is avyakta, akalpaniya, and aparivartaniya. In Buddhism, I mean, a lot of people I think who practice Buddhism may not agree with this, but this is how I think. Uh, Buddhism doesn't believe in Atma. Rather, they say Annata or Anatma. But they do believe in this ultimate truth, which is consciousness, which is the ultimate truth for all of us. And they say because its nature is like that, that you cannot say anything about it, you cannot understand it, you cannot imagine it. And it's really hard to know anything about it except for the fact that it is just consciousness, it's just ever pervading, it's all pervasive existence. So they call it anatma, like we cannot know anything about it. So there are two prime words in Hinduism and Buddhism. So in Hinduism, this individual consciousness is called as Atman, which is our truth, and the collective consciousness or the universal consciousness is Brahman. And Atman is Brahman, and Brahman and Atman is one and same thing. And in Buddhism, the words used are Anatma and Shunya. So what we describe as Brahman in Hinduism is Shunya in Buddhism, because they believe that this collective consciousness or the ultimate truth of what is existence cannot be explained or understood in any word. So they just call it Shunya, like this is Shunya. And because the collective consciousness is Shunya, the personal consciousness is Anatma or Annata in Pali Sanskrit. And these characteristics are explained here. And again, Krishna is telling Arjun, if you really know the truth of it, if you really know the truth of your existence, you will not grieve for anything. Ath cha enam nitya jatam, nityam va manyase mritam, tathapi tvam mahabaho, न एनम शोचितुम अर्हसि. किंतु यदि तुम सोचते हो कि आत्मा सदा जन्म लेता है, सदा मरता है, तो भी हे महाबाहु, तुम्हें शोक करने का कोई कारण नहीं है. Now he takes a different route to explain it to Arjun. He says कि चलो, let's consider that you do not believe that, Atma never dies, or you think that it dies and then it takes birth. Even then, there is no good reason to grieve about this. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युर्ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद् परिहार्ये अर्थे न त्वं शोचितुम अर्हसि. जिसने जन्म लिया है उसकी मृत्यु निश्चित है, और मृत्यु के पश्चात पुनर्जन्म भी निश्चित है. अतः अपने अपरिहार्य कर्तव्य पालन में तुम्हें शोक नहीं करना चाहिए. Now he says that whoever is born is bound to die, and whoever dies is reborn again. And here, this is one of the belief in Hinduism of many lives and rebirth after one dies. And this is what Krishna is indicating, like whatever is born is bound to die, and whoever dies is bound to reborn. And so what is it that you grieve about? It's a cyclical nature again. It is bound to happen. If you do not fight, and if they do not get killed by you, they will in any ways are going to die. And whoever dies is going to reborn. अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारतः अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिवेदना. सारे जीव प्रारंभ में अव्यक्त रहते हैं, मध्य अवस्था में व्यक्त होते हैं और विनष्ट होने पर पुनः अव्यक्त हो जाते हैं. अतः शोक करने की क्या आवश्यकता है. So he just explains that everybody, before they are born, they're just not seen. Avyakt means they are not existing. You cannot notice, you cannot observe them. Then they are born and you can see them, you can feel, you can sense them. And then in the end, again, they just go back to the old avyakt stage where they are not manifested. So he says every life comes from unmanifest state to manifest state and then goes back to unmanifest state. So what is there to grieve about it? It's just again the cyclical nature of consciousness. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिद्देन आश्चर्यत्व वदति तथैव च अन्यः आश्चर्यवजनं मन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्. कोई आत्मा को आश्चर्य से देखता है, कोई इसे आश्चर्य की तरह बताता है तथा कोई इसे आश्चर्य की तरह सुनता है, किंतु कोई कोई इसके विषय में सुनकर भी कुछ समझ नहीं पाता है. So he is now coming to the point that it is not really easy to understand or easy to grasp or know the truth of Atma. देहि नित्यं वध्यो अहम देहि सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुम अर्हसि. हे भारतवंशी, शरीर में रहने वाले का कभी भी वध नहीं किया जा सकता, अतः तुम्हें किसी भी जीव के लिए शोक करने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. So he says, what is inside the body, the truth in the body. So body is just the manifested form of that consciousness. It cannot be killed. It cannot ever be killed. So you should not grieve about anything. There is no point grieving. So till here, he's been speaking more about the truth of the Atma or truth of our existence. And then after, and this is up till verse 30. And from the next verse, then Krishna will begin speaking about dharma and what more is said. And I'm just wondering, we would not be able to complete the chapter. So how about we continue from 31 verse in our next session, because that would be like a completely different theme for this chapter. Yeah. So till the verse 30, whatever Krishna has said, he's tried to bring Arjun's attention more and more and more to the truth of Atma, the truth of our existence. And I would like to ask you, when you hear this, and I know it's not easy, even Krishna says that it's really not easy, like there's a lot of surprise with which people may see or talk about this truth, and a lot of people would not even be able to understand anything about it. What are your feelings? What are you thinking now that we've sort of spoken about it?
Yes, you want to go ahead or should I?
You go first, then I'll share.
So, Komal, this truth has come to me in various languages and from various sources previously too, but now I realize it's been said in Gita, probably the foremost. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Hmm.
Everything falls into place. And it's very, very difficult to accept that this is how it is. So I lost my dad in COVID.
Hmm.
At that time, a very generic video came my way, which I think came my way just to tell me that. So the same thing that we are formless and then we manifest into a form and then ultimately we will vanish formless.
Hmm.
So when a child is in a mother's womb, all the child sees is darkness
Hmm.
and the child thinks my life is all dark.
Yeah.
But the child doesn't know that the moment he or she is going to step out, there's going to be a mother to take care of, a father to take care of, and there's going to be a whole world out there that child will meet. So when we have not seen anything and we rely so heavily on our eyes, I think eyes are the most limiting thing. We think this is all that is there. Whereas man ki aankhon se agar dekho, there's a lot. So when my father passed away, this made so much sense to me that the only difference is that now I can't see,
Hmm.
but he's here.
Yeah.
So I'm in that darkness. I can't see him, but he's right here. And similarly, for example, Komal, I met you when I came. I met Jessica when I came here in Canada. For me, you were in that dark area which I could not see. But you were
Absolutely.
always existing in this world.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But we manifested in your life because of circumstances, because of
Yeah, yeah.
situation.
So we think people are not there, but they're all there roaming around us. We can't see them. And when we'll see them when the time comes. And when we are not supposed to see them, they'll go out of our lives.
Yep. I think that's a very, very beautiful and a very practical way to see and understand it, Manmeet. It's, yeah, that's lovely. Jessica.
So I think Manmeet simplified it so much and actually put it quite beautifully. Our vision, what we can see, is expands our world and also limits it so much.
Yeah.
Way limits it way more than expands. Um, I was just thinking. I mean, I probably tuned into like 20-25 minutes of this today, but I was in a meeting just before that. But once I tuned into this, it really gives me a very zoomed out perspective. Like suddenly I'm like absolutely somewhere else. Otherwise, it's so, you're occupied with just your everyday things, work, what do you have for breakfast, lunch, just that. And then suddenly it's this zoomed out perspective about existence,
Mm,
and that's really valuable for me. And um I couldn't go too deep into it, because it was just like, okay, like I'm just opening my horizon to just like it's expanded so much, exponentially within a
yeah.
few minutes. And that's what reading like this can do. And you need to dwell more on it, of course. But it's incredible, and I'm really glad we're doing this, and we are able to share, discuss, and ask, to each other and share our perspectives. It's truly valuable.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel, how these things sort of make sense to me is because, and mind is very stubborn and very creative too. So, and through our minds, we are bound to know or believe things that we can touch, taste, feel, and see some sort of a tangible outcome. And something about Atma, you can't see it. So I think the perspective that really helps me, and Manmi, what you've shared today about like in context of unmanifest to manifest and then going into unmanifest is so true, is so valuable. Something like that sort of happens with me. It's like I sort of try every idea, like, okay, if in a situation, in a state of deep grief about anything or anybody, what does this idea do to me? What does just knowing that, okay, Atma is the truth, that is the reality. So in the soul form or in the form of consciousness, this person stays, is there. And the feeling that we say is that, oh, our ancestors are always with us, or whatever has happened in the past, all those energies are present all the time. It sort of makes me personally feel very calm in an instant. And I like, okay, yeah, this is one idea which instantly puts the mind to rest. It's like mind has got no further arguments. Yes, it can say that, oh, but I can't see it. Yeah, you're not supposed to see it. And so all arguments or all those formations of mind sort of gets dropped, and that is where I think is the real power of these wisdom lies, because we
I
can
am
experience
reminded,
them.
sorry,
No problem.
go ahead,
Go ahead.
Komal.
No, go ahead. I was just
So,
finished.
there's a book very favorite to me and Jessica. I'm sure, Komal, you've read it too, The Little Prince.
Yes.
It says the same thing. What is essential to you is invisible, the eyes.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, that what you can see is not important. What you can't see is the essential.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining in and walking alongside in this Just in Me today. Let's meet next week and take this chapter forward.
Thank you so much, Komal.
Thank you. Good night to both
Thank
of
you,
you.
Komal.
Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.